also just to make it safer. So I would like to propose that we add a crosswalk at 6th and Davies. It's on the bottom left of this slide, and it is in between Esso and where the secondary school would be. We do not have a crosswalk there, and there's so many kids who walk from there to Esso every single day. And there's also a lot of traffic that goes through there that are not aware that there's a lot of kids crossing because there's no crosswalk at all. And then also I propose that we add right at the top of the slide, top left middle, across from the Dragonfly down Railway Ave, there's that parking. I propose that we extend the paved area so we can have a full-on parking spot. And that would also include areas for parking, but also for snow removal if there's a big snowstorm. If there's some sort of big event in the area, whether it's like an accident or something, it could also be like a convenience point for different emergency response vehicles or people in need. We can set up something there, and it's just a nice big area right in the center of town that we could have for that. And then,
can I just ask you, are you talking on the other side from the Dragonfly?
Opposite side, like the side of the Railway Museum.
Okay, that's how you're there. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we understood where that is. Okay.
And then also through the downtown, so like Main and Fourth and whatnot, I would also like to propose that we remove a few parking spots, specifically angled parking at each stop sign, like 2 spaces on either side or so. Because right now people are having to creep up into the intersection, and by the time they can see it's clear, there's cars parked there, they're already in the intersection blocking the road. So if there's a pedestrian walking behind, people won't be able to see the pedestrian at all until they're already on top of them. I'd also like to propose the same parallel parking, maybe just 1 parallel parking spot. We don't even have to do that on one because those intersections are a lot smaller, so you can see a lot more. And then I'd also like to say we should rework some of the stuff on Davies Ave and Seward Ave, specifically in front of the secondary school. There's that perpendicular, both full and parking there. And a lot of times people just kind of back up and hope. That's all you can do. You can't see anything. No one can see you. If there's pedestrian behind you, you can't see it. There's just no way. So everyone's we change it to angled parking. So we reduce the risk for pedestrians and vehicle collisions right there, because you just got to hope somebody's honking. And then also I propose that we add the radar speed signs, such as what the elementary school is fundraising for, right there too. There's a lot of people who speed down there, specifically the new drivers. Like, I mean, every one of them seems to be speeding down there pretty quickly. And then I also would like to say we could probably add some traffic calming measures on the vehicle over a lot longer period of time. For the Salmo as it gets bigger, if it doesn't. So I graph on the left side there, and it's showing that between 40 and 50 kilometers an hour, the chance for fatality with a pedestrian in a collision increases 35%, and it gets even higher the quicker you're going. So we can just keep it a little bit slower now, or at least give people an opportunity to stop in time. That would really help lower that curve. So if there is ever an accident in Salmo, nothing actually too bad happens, or any serious injury, but they are still okay. And we can do this through many means, such as trees, which we can add on places like, if you want to actually look back a page, sorry about that, on Seward Ave, it's right across from the old, the community center and whatnot. It's right there in front of it. It should be labeled. There's a crosswalk and a road, and there's that little bit of grass and median kind of in between the two. We could add a few trees there or something, just to make it feel smaller. It won't make the road smaller, it won't really affect too much, I don't think. It might affect snow removal a little bit, but that would just make the road feel smaller, so people go slower, especially when we have the pool open, there's a lot of traffic over there. And then we can also add cemented pylons, there's roads like Davies by the school where there's that dirt and gravel offshoot beside the sidewalk over there. And it's has nothing there, and people don't really put so I was thinking we can maybe make it feel smaller by having these pylons. We either cement them in place. It's just 6 foot by 2 inches, 6 feet tall, 2 inches wide. And we can cement them, or we can use these view lane pads that they're going to stick down. They can last up to 3 years. And so it's very tall, so hopefully everyone can see it, including snow removal, and they can kind of go around it because it's not very wide. They can just go around it, and people can still park there. It just makes the road feel smaller. And then something that I don't think we're going to get to, but we may eventually want to do it if we do ever have problems, would be corner extensions or curb expansions or whatever you call them. That's in the bottom right of the traffic calming measures page. And pretty much it just shows that we kind of add a little bit of we extend the curve at each crosswalk. So the distance pedestrians have to walk is smaller. It also makes the center point between where cars are stopping close to the other, so they have more view of what is on either side of them. So they can actually see if it's safe or not, and they can pull forward and they'll pass the stop sign. So it's just safer for everyone involved. And then I also have a very, very rough cost page. I'm assuming we painted ones before, that'll probably be more accurate. But I did a little bit of research. This isn't taking account of shipping and all the other factors like that. But just the gross cost for buying different thermoplastic paints that we should use on the roads should be about $5,000 for the white and maybe $7,000 for the yellow in downtown and Railway Ave. And then I don't know if we have some sort of a sprayer for that paint in this town or in local communities, but maybe we could acquire one or borrow one. And I've heard that we were trying to share assets between different communities in this area at some point, like, water trucks and whatnot. So if we were to rent or buy one, we might be able to kickstart that back up. So I think it's kind of running out of steam. It's going pretty slow. So if we were to do that, it would cost us $1,500 for this very, very small one. That would take a lot of 9 hours and be very expensive. And it could take as much as $50,000 for a full driving one, but then you could also drive between communities, so it's easier to get there. And it would also have less costs and man hours and whatnot. And I think that's it. So thank you. Do you have any questions?
Does anybody have questions? I have some comments.
Yes, I also have comments, but first off, great presentation, honestly.
Thank you.
Well thought out, and you did some good research. And I'm sure the mayor will speak to this too. A lot of some of your ideas we actually do implement.
Okay.
Well, I'll just use line painting, for instance. We do it. The village does line painting pretty much every year. Obviously, the winter is not the best time to be painting lines. Not saying it doesn't get done, and it's not a bad idea. I do like the idea of the sprayer and sharing the cost with other communities that could use it. I think that's something that the village can definitely at least think about or consider, because right now we do it just with manpower and a roller and brush. So really good idea there. I like the idea of larger curves. I have to agree with your statements on people encroaching over stop lines with vehicles being there or snowplow being there and they are moving into intersections. That is pretty dangerous. So I do think you have a very valid point there. All in all, it's really nice to see a young person like yourself take some initiative. You being a new driver, I think that's really, really courageous of you, and I just want to applaud you for your effort.
Well, thank you. Can I make a comment on that?
Absolutely.
So with the painting of the roads, if we use that specific thing I was talking about, the thermoplastic one, it will last longer.
Mm-hmm.
And we can put different additives in it, like with that machine, where you can put glass beads to make more reflective or other things to make it last longer. So you don't have to repaint it every single year with less efficient paint, which may be more expensive in the long run. I think that maybe
That's something I didn't know. Thank you.
And I think also, yeah, I agree with John, Council, completely. And I think the crosswalk by the high school is a great point. Some of the things aren't necessarily our jurisdiction, highways and that sort of thing, that the political kind of getting caught in a bit of that, but yeah, you definitely have some good points in there.
cute.
Yeah, the crosswalk at, was that 6th and 80?
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea because we did put up a high impact stop sign. There's a thing there that says high impact, but yeah, all the high school goes there and we don't even have a crosswalk crossing that street. So it's a very good point.
Thank you.
Yeah, and good for you for doing this. This is great. Amazing job.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm going to go a little bit farther than all of them and give you a little bit more. So the paint that's used now doesn't last as long, whether it's in town or on highways, because we all used to use lead in our paint. And that's why it lasts before and why we could get at least 2 years out of it. And now we have a hard time getting 12 months out of it, and that includes the highways. There is paint, as you say, it doesn't make it last longer, it just makes it more reflective. And the reason I know that is because I just went through a meeting with Modi on December 19th of last year. And I learned that because I didn't know that. Because I asked the same thing about highways, about the lines disappearing faster and faster every year. It seems like they paint it and it's gone. And that's why. And that was their explanation. So that was something that was new for me. As Councillor Neal had said, across from the Dragonfly, that is where you're talking, that is highways property. We can't do anything with that kind of stuff. The in front of the school is not even our property again. And where it jets out in front of the doors is all creates a difficulty for the school district to remove snow that I get calls on that people want that snow removed, that it's village's responsibility, and it's not. So if the school does, and I understand because we have parallel parking out here, and unless we put barriers all the way down the middle of the road, you're always going to have people because that's the nature of the beast. And I'm not sure why people don't feel that going around the block is too far, but they will not go around the block a lot of times. And if they won't park on that side, they will go around. So the perpendicular, I don't think you're ever going to change that in front of the high school. The unfortunate part is we're coming up this way and we're going across that way, and that's the only way to park that way because you can't do angle parking that way. You have to get people to come either around the mountain this way to park angle that way, or go into the school bus area and come through there and come back. And again, the only way you're going to get people to do that, including students, is by putting barriers across that they can't actually turn into that.
Okay.
Right? So going out into the different areas, the forethought thinkers that developed the community, and the reason our roads are so wide is because of the snow load. So when we start putting those barriers that come out and stuff like that, as at the high school, and when that one was built, and it's the only one in Salmo, when that one was built, there was a lot of community people that were in here, not at this council table, but when it was built back in 2005, were screaming about how much it affected the driving, because people would drive up over top of it, kids would come stand out on it because it's a sidewalk, right? So the thought when they built all that is that it gives people more opportunity. And that's why we don't have a lot of accidents in our intersections, is because we do have wider roads than most. I love that you spent the time and went through the ones that I would really like for us to be able to have staff take to staff, is look at which ones. Now, when you say 6 in Davies, that intersection has, as Councillor Lynn said, has the sign as a high impact. The reason that that sign went up there is because kids refused to walk down to the end and cross the crosswalk. There used to be an actual painted crosswalk. So they made sure that they put up a sign to make sure drivers know that it's a high impact, and not that we shouldn't still go and put the lines back, because there's a lot of intersections that don't have crosswalk signs. But that is one of the reasons they stopped painting that years ago.
Okay.
Is that it did have. When I went to school, there was a crosswalk there.
Sorry, where was the crosswalk? Where was it?
You know where the village is?
Yeah,
Okay, that intersection.
yeah, I know the intersection.
The crosswalk used to be on the south side on 6th Street.
Oh, I don't remember there being.
Yeah, there used to be a
The only one I remember is this one, this end.
used to be a crosswalk there, used to be a crosswalk by Paul's at that intersection.
See, I don't remember that. Interesting.
And it weren't all 4. It was just one crosswalk this way and one crosswalk.
Yeah, which is fair enough, but
So-
right now, the only crosswalk across Davies is at Insurance.
Yes, yeah.
Which is a long
Yeah.
way from the high school. So
Yeah.
Can I also say one more thing on that? There also, the sign is on the stop sign. It's not on the street where you're pulling up to it, where you would be going like straight through pretty quick. That doesn't have that sign there at all. It's just on the stop sign.
Yeah,
When you're coming from the insurance place, there is no high collision impact sign.
no, because there's no stop sign. There's no,
Yeah.
the only stop that you're doing is going on 6th Street.
Yeah, but there's still kids crossing there who don't.
I know, but you're not putting high impact signs go on stop where people are stopping. And that's why that is because that's who's supposed to stop the accident, not the flow through people,
Yeah,
we were
right?
actually running that stop sign and that is what was causing the accident.
But maybe having more, are you still in school?
yeah, not for long, but yeah.
No.
So, yeah.
Maybe having more education on when spring comes and we get summer students and they do line painting, that we have a little bit more education at the schools using crosswalk. Because lots of them just walk straight down the street and, you know, it's Salmo.
It's,
It's Salmo. So
Adults do it a lot too.
I realize that, but
Yeah.
yeah. Councilman.
two things. One, can we look at putting a crosswalk somewhere on Davies?
That's what it is. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I kind of
You'll
missed
take
that.
that to staff and look at the
Yeah,
crosswalks that maybe we do.
well, I was just, because of the high school students, there is not one all the way
Yeah.
to get to the other side. And secondly, I actually refuse to use the crosswalk by the hotel and the library. I cross in the middle of the walk because
Yeah.
that crosswalk on the corner,
Yeah.
I've almost been hit there. I don't know how many times. So I jaywalk.
You did not hear it.
Sorry.
Say that she did.
It's,
I would like to say that's where we could use like a curb extension or something like that, or just get rid of one parallel parking spot specifically for that intersection.
I find it's the people come up on the highway.
Yeah.
It's the people on the highway turning in
Yeah.
that aren't looking. If you step out there into that crosswalk, you gotta watch behind you. Be very cautious.
If we add that crosswalk extension just off that, so they can't cut the corner, they can take it fully, and then they have to actually look out their window and see, maybe that would help a little bit. Maybe not fully, but maybe a little bit.
In the summer, it would be great. I would hate to see what the guys would have to deal with in the winter. And not just because we actually only have to take care of our parking spots. It's actually YRVs that can take care of the main road, but because they're down there early and they push all the snow in to get rid of it, it's just that much more of barriers and stuff like that. And the ones where you had talked about sort of down Sayward with the trees, that's where they pile snow and stuff like that. So I understand of wanting to shrink stuff, but yeah. But it is something that the CAO can take to staff and look at what it would cost for us to do more crosswalks, because it's not just here. There's a bunch down at KP Park, July 1st. There's people all over the place and people don't go to corners. And would they go to the corner if there's two painted lines? Don't.
I mean, it would at
Worth a
least,
try.
it would tell drivers to at least be aware that there's somebody crossing if they see the white line.
Yeah. Do you have any questions or anything?
No, I think I got what I need here. I will definitely go back to Public Works and look at what our schedule is for line painting for our different pieces of infrastructure for the crosswalks, the corners, all of that, and see what the timing is. And then, definitely look at putting in a couple extra crosswalks for sure. So I think we should be good. I think that if there's anything specific as far as a larger increase in those numbers, I'll bring it back to council just as far as kind of tying into maybe our accessibility plan or that sort of thing. But yeah, no, I think this is a great start. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and did you're welcome to stay.
I think I might.
Excellent. Love it.
So, right on.
Excellent. Okay. We're on to new business. This is a resolution for AKBLG use of referendum funds towards the purchase of a fire apparatus. So I'll speak on this. As you guys all know, is I had put one through last year to AKBLG. It got passed to the UBCM. It got passed at UBCM. I spoke with the minister, Minister Kang. She wrote back a nice little letter, said the public needs to get to have a say on whether you're going to get a fire truck or not. And I said, okay, if they say no, can we just not get a fire truck? And nope, you're not allowed to get rid of the service. But if they say no, then you have to pay for it in the 5 years, which we already knew that. The whole reason of the referendum is that so you can pay for greater than 5 years. So knowing that we have a different ministry in Ministry of Affairs this year, I've written it a little bit differently than I have before the last year. So if you guys want to have any say on where I'm going with this, because I know what I'm trying to say, but you read it and see if you understand what I'm trying to say. Councilor Beasley.
If I may, through the chair. So the first question that I have burning in my head is, do we have budgeted resolution funds that we're going to be moving forward for this specific program? Like, is there a dollar value? Do we have money in the bank for a referendum? Because that's the way I'm reading this, that we have money put aside for a referendum, that we're not going to do a referendum, use that money instead to help pay for the apparatus.
No, this is to say when we have to, not at any time, when we are expected to have a referendum for a fire apparatus. And the reason I use fire apparatus, because if you use fire truck, they say, is it a tender, is it a water? So they want it to be a fire apparatus. That it doesn't matter if it's this year, 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. And instead of us having to put money in the budget for a referendum, that money that we would put in the budget for the referendum, we could just automatically use it towards our fire truck.
Okay, supplementary.
Yes.
So we would still need to have public input, so it would be an AAP, I would imagine.
No.
Instead. So how do we get past not doing a referendum or an AAP and still purchasing the fire truck?
That's what she's asking.
That's what I'm asking for.
Okay. So supplementary to my supplementary, you asked us to read it and see how we understood it. The way even just the title alone, and I didn't read the whole thing because it really had my brain thinking. It reads like we already have funds available to put forward. That's the way it's my opinion. Your clarification helps me, it does, but I just don't get how we can get past the.
So changing the resolution of the council of the village of Salmo authorizing the use of referendum funds towards the purchase of a fire apparatus. You would have to budget for a referendum.
Yeah.
So when we're ready to do a referendum, that $10,000 that is going to cost us for the referendum, that we would still budget getting the $10,000 for that funding.
Is going to purchase.
So this is just removing from the referendum.
If I may, I think for Councillor Eady's point, I think that what may help with that point is with the authorizing the use of referendum, we have authorizing the creation and use of referendum funds, so that when we move to create it as well, it's not just. I know where Councillor Eady is coming from. It is worried in the sense of that those funds are always kind of sitting there waiting to be used in a sense, is that, or we would. That we would have funds kind of available. We haven't pass that or anything into the budget yet, but that would be kind of a, well, when the time comes, so to speak. But I don't know if that is, I guess we're maybe I'm misspeaking.
No,
on that,
no, you're not, Sergio. And it's a little bit confusing to me because it sounds like we already have the funds, like you said. Obviously the clarity helped. We understand what this was, which was great. So just for my knowledge, I guess, I understand it now. Like I know obviously it's not budgeted, we're not planning a referendum, but if we do.
So I guess the whole thing is what tells you what this is about.
Well, I did read it. I'm not saying I didn't read it. It just confused me that it states that we're authorizing the use of referendum funds, but it doesn't say that we don't have the funds until it's been budgeted.
Okay.
That's it just confused me.
Councilor,
I think, and reading it now, I didn't really think of it when I read it the first time, but listening to Councilor Heatley, I think it sounds like we're going to do it now.
Mhm.
Whereas this is just a resolution to send to AKBLG, which I think maybe if we could somehow make that clear. Because the way it sounds like this is a resolution we're voting on, or a motion, rather than a resolution that's being sent to AKBLG. I think it just needs like a little heading at the top.
In the event of.
Yeah.
It's just,
I think it would just be clearer if we could just write something that it is something that we're sending to AKBLG, a resolution to be looked at, rather than this is what we're doing. Because just reading it over, it looks like a motion instead of a resolution.
in a heading, it wouldn't state anything about going to AKBLG,
Yes,
right?
yes. But if I didn't have this, then I would think that this is something we're voting on tonight by reading this.
We're voting on whether we're gonna,
Yeah, I mean that we're voting on,
whether we send this resolution to
No.
AKBLG.
I don't know, I'm just not wording it right. I know that it's a resolution we're voting on whether we're gonna send it or not, but just without this heading that we're sending it to the AKBLG, just reading this, it looks like we're voting on whether or not we're gonna have a referendum. Right?
It's not about whether or not to have a referendum,
I know the point of the,
but that's where, I think that's where the confusion is. Okay?
I know the point of it, and I understand what we're doing. I'm just saying, without a little bit more,
But
clarity, it's hard to know.
So we have to figure out what's the wording then. What
If
is
someone just looks at this, they're gonna think that we're voting on a referendum. Whatever. Not that we're voting on whether we're gonna send this resolution to AKBLG.
I guess.
I'm not wording it.
No, I don't think that it's not that you're not wording it. I think that their confusion is that the agenda, okay, I'll use the delegation. Okay, the delegation doesn't tell us that it's just inquiring about safety stuff, right? So if you were here, you would hear the delegation and understand that. Where the motion tells you what the item in the agenda is about. That's what our business is what, but if there's wording that, like, we're not to put AKBLG in the motion.
Yeah.
And because it's the only reason we're speaking about AKBLG is because that's our association
It's the next.
that they would like to be able to have it go in the top 5 that go down to UBCM, to be able to have it go from UBCM to the provincial government.
Yeah.
So even if it passed at AKB, say it passes at AKBLG, it gets to UBCM, no words change.
It's the same
Yeah.
motion.
It's the same resolution that is going to UBCM. So if there's words in it that you feel, other than adding AKBLG or UBCM, if there's words in it that you think that can be changed, that give more about the whereas, about the therefore, what we're asking for, then that's what, even the top. I don't care. This is what we're looking for to do with referendum funds.
Yeah.
Councilor Lee.
Ultimately, though, if I'm understanding correctly, that our goal is to eliminate the referendum. And so using the referendum funds kind of is like maybe that wording could be like more concise by saying eliminating, because really what we're doing is trying to requesting that they get rid of the referendum. By talking about the funds, it kind of gets more muddy, instead of just being more direct and saying that we want to eliminate the referendum, even though they already told us no.
That was last.
They told us no for 11 years
Exactly.
over IPI with recycling, and this year we got it.
So we just, yeah. So maybe that would be more.
So eliminating would be
Removing the referendum requirement
Yeah.
towards the purchase of a fire apparatus.
Yes,
There you go,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that actually,
And utilize funds towards the purchase of a new apparatus.
repurposing those funds. Something like that.
And that would honestly alleviate my question,
Yeah.
because it, to me, it just sounds like we already have the funds available. But understanding that we don't until we get that. But
yeah, because this, yeah. So where is there anything else added? Do you have that in those words then?
I can, yeah. I'll
I think just changing the heading, will clear a lot of.
A resolution of the Council of the Village of Salmo authorizing the removal of the referendum requirements towards the purchase of a fire apparatus.
do you want to word so you can utilize those funds towards the apparatus as well in the heading, or?
No, because
If you don't have to
If you-
budget them for a referendum at
that's-
their end.
that's right.
That's-
Maybe it's 5% for a fire truck, but, and 5% for a referendum, and now we can do 10%.
Yeah.
For a fire truck. Or 8%.
Yeah.
So it's not such a huge bite, whichever. So can you read that off? Just because it makes a difference for.
Yeah. So a resolution of the Council of the Village of Salmo authorizing the removal of referendum requirements for the purchase of a fire apparatus.
Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And everything else in there, is there any more information, referendums, or resolutions, the whereas is why we're doing it. And the therefore is what we're wanting the outcome to be.
No, I liked it all, honestly.
Yeah,
It just,
yeah.
that heading got my brain spinning.
Believe me. I gave it to the CAO and said, okay, I've gone over this, I don't know how many times, rewritten it many times. I need you to, and then I wanted him to rewrite a bunch of it. And he's like, no, I think it's saying exactly what you wanted to say. Okay, that council support bringing the resolution of using okay, so we're gonna have to change this.
Amended.
No, it's not amended because the motion's not on the table. Okay, the council support bringing the resolution to AKBLG for consideration. It doesn't have to have all the other stuff. There could be 10 things in here. It just has to be support bringing the resolution to AKBLG for consideration.
I think that's appropriate. Yeah.
And who would like to move that?
I will move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? No.
That's great.
All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Okay, adoption of the minutes. The minutes of regular meeting, council meeting 1924, Tuesday, December 10th, 2024 be adopted as presented.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any questions on those minutes?
For me.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Yeah.
Any opposed? Carried. There's no report from delegation from prior meetings, policy development review. So we have a rezoning before I put anything on. This is development or rezoning. I'm just gonna tell you where this is, and then I will have the CEO with more information. This is I'm gonna use Burke's Trailer Court, because you all know where Burke's Trailer Court. The land, if you're looking at Burke's Trailer Court on the left-hand side, Clausen's piece of property. Okay?
Directly south of the arena and the recycling. So basically what happened in this instance is when the property was rezoned, there was a bit of just an internal error that should have been, the zone should have been changed on the single family housing to reflect that it's single family, because the zoning requirements under zero circumstances can house a mobile home park. So that was just something that we needed to change whenever that process happened. The issue is that there's an outstanding permit that the owner wants to take out that doesn't fit the zoning requirements, and it's just for like a basement finish permit, and that's not allowed under the zoning. So we just need to do just a paper move and change it to R1 so that we can process that permit. So it should have been that all the entire time, but it was just something that was an error on our end. So in the idea of just doing it ourselves so that the owner doesn't have to do this, like pay for the rezoning or anything themselves, because it's something that we did, not something that they should be required to.
What is it zoned at now?
Mobile home park.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it matches the same as the rest of the parcel. So.
When they subdivided the house off, right? We didn't here at the office do that. That staff be directed to prepare a zoning amendment bylaw for the rezoning change for property lot A plan EPP 113549 District Lot 206 Kootenai Lake District 1023 Glendale Avenue to R1 single and two family residential to be brought forward for consideration at the next regular council meeting. That doesn't need to be in there. We'll just stop it at after residential period. Okay, you don't need all the rest.
I
will second.
Any questions on it? Hearing none, all in favor?
In favor.
Okay, we'll move on to referendum required for fire truck. Okay, you're up.
Okay, yeah, so this is just touching on the email, just the requiring just the AAP that Councillor Heaton was talking about, just that there is that potential for the village to inquire about borrowing funds for a fire truck that don't involve a referendum. However, it is kind of a bit of, I don't want to say a risky proposition, is that basically what would happen in this instance is council would approve to move forward with an AAP versus a referendum. And then if through the AAP more than 10% of the residents provided feedback, that is deemed significant under the legislation, and then now we would have to have a referendum. So in theory, you're paying for both. You're paying for both costs of each process. if the council felt that there wasn't, it wasn't going to be, I guess, controversial, or there wasn't going to be that level of feedback, the AAP was just something just to, I guess, just make council aware that we didn't have to go down the referendum option if we felt that it wasn't politically sensitive. I guess is really more what this was all about, is that if, of course, council feels that they should go through a referendum anyway because of the importance of the ask, then by all means. But it was just more, I guess, bringing that potential to your guys' attention. Really, it's just.
Oh, sorry, no.
It just says 10% of feedback. It doesn't say negative or like against it. So if more than 10% of people say, "Oh yeah, great, we support this decision," does that still count as feedback? And then
Yes, it's not a matter of positive or negative. It's just if
anybody says anything.
if 10%,
They like it.
in a sense, yeah, it's kind of a funny way that it's worded, but there's not positive or speaking against. It's just 10% of feedback, and it is of your electoral count, so it's not your entire population. It's just your voting electorate. So, which changes the number a little bit.
Yes.
And how much advertising do you have to do? Like, what are the requirements for that? Is it like, I didn't get to dig into the link.
It's not as intense as a referendum. Referendum is more. I mean, there is still advertising requirements and a process with it. It's but it's not like it's something as simple as just advertising. As simple as like a council meeting. It's a little more work than that. But
Interesting.
What are the costs of a AAP versus a referendum or?
I haven't drilled down into that yet. I know the AAP will be cheaper just based on those, but as far as how much, I have a little bit of talking with Tom from the district regarding the previous referendums for those fire trucks, but the number he was throwing around was around 10,000. But for the referendum, but I haven't figured out if that would be more or less because I don't know what they would have had to do for their public hearings and their advertising. If it would just be more because they're a larger center, they'd have more avenues that they would need to advertise, for example. Or where us, I don't think that our public hearing would be in one place once. Where I'm sure for their purchases, it would have had to have been a little more intensive process.
If I may, through the chair, I guess my question is to the CAO. Obviously, this is just for information, but timeline, like, are we, especially with just approving that resolution go to AKLGB, would we be waiting for an answer before we even consider this, or are we wanting to do a referendum in the EAP before it goes to AKLGB? So it could be years.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for our replacement date for our truck is 2031. So I'm talking with another contractor. He's a former county reeve in Alberta. He kind of consults for fire truck building now. I have to phone him to see what their timelines would be for ordering a vehicle. I mean, it seems that it's around 2.5 to 3 years is what it would take. So really that's kind of our line, is that if it's 2031, we kind of need to have the money and that plan in place before that time period, so that whenever our clock runs out as far as our coverage for our fire underwriters, that we have the unit. But I would say that we probably have a solid year or so to talk about this, maybe 2. But I mean, frankly, I would rather get our ducks in a row as far as our plan, and then, you know, if anything, just worry about waiting for the truck being the issue, not anything else.
Supplementary, if I may. So I did dig through that link, and it's exhausting, but I kind of get the idea of the AAP opposed to the referendum. And I think, in my opinion, because of what this project is, I think we should just go to referendum. That would be my opinion. I think rolling the dice on the AAP and only having 7% of people even reply is a bit risky because everyone's going to want a fire truck. Good or bad, whether it's too much money or it's yes, we need one, I think you would definitely be open to 10%. So in my opinion, I would rather see a referendum on it in this case. I think it would be just money wasted on me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so,
I'm just gonna give you guys a little bit, so we've all been taxpayers of HV mines. And there was an AAP that went out, what year is this? 2000, I'm gonna say it's 24, not 25 yet. So it went out in 2018. I still have the flyer actually in my office that I have up on my wall to remind me that the RDCK asked every taxpayer with a flyer in every single mailbox, and that's 65, no, sorry, it's just for Central, so it's only 35,000 roughly and change population. Every single mailbox got one, and it was an AAP to borrow $5 million. And they got 2 responses. And now people are up in arms about it because we're way past the 5 million now. But people are up in arms about it that we weren't told about this. We weren't that. I still have the sheet. It was a flyer, a 5x7 that came in the mail, and it said all the information exactly, and it was an AAP. And now that was 2018. We're still hearing about it today. So the biggest thing for our taxpayers is to understand that why, because we're getting the fire truck no matter what. It's not about yes or no over a fire truck. It's about how long do we want to pay for it. That's our biggest communication issue. And an AAP just puts out, because that's how we would have to communicate. And yes, we can put it on social media, we can put it on the post office box and stuff like that, but we have to still mail to every single household. So it's still $600 in that cost, plus printing of the stuff. And then there's always that risk of people not understanding and there's still a risk in the referendum. But it's about the communication of how we get people to understand that you as a Salmo taxpayer, do you want to pay for $1 million truck in 5 years? Or do you want to pay for it in 10 years, 15 years, whatever? In a referendum, we can ask those questions. In an AAP, we can't.
Yeah.
We can tell them how long we're going to purchase it or how long we're going to take to purchase it, but we can't ask them, would you want it 5 years, 10 years, 7 years, whatever, right? Because there's it's not a voting mechanism. So even though a referendum is more expensive, and as much as I think it's absolutely ridiculous when you cannot say no to it, and government, all levels of government are so bad at communicating to everybody because everybody learns and understands at different levels. And there's no possible way of us being able to make sure that everybody has the full understanding of what it is. So a referendum, it could be borrow. This is what it would cost you if you had a $500,000 house over 5 years, over 10 years, over 15 years, like what it would cost you each year. And that's why I would go with the referendum over the AAP if we have to do it. Now, I'm going to go to the actual truck. So there was 3 that went out of the RDCK for 3 different areas, and they've been told 36 to 39 months to build a truck. So that's over 3 years. And they're pushing farther out than 39 months. So, you know, and another fire building place has gone under. They don't build them anymore, so it's even more pressure on what's out there. So I think that even though we have this information and it's good information, I think that we need to start looking at what are those, like, we need to, and I think that we'll probably see it in budget time, is what that fire truck price is looking like and where we're going with that. And that's my opinion on over the AAP versus, and the AAP is alternate approval process. Sorry for using that acronym, or the referendum. So, okay, so this is just for information. And thank you for everybody's feedback on that. The council accepts the CAO's report for information.
I'll second.
All in favor?
In favor.
Any opposed? Very good. Okay. Now on to my favorite. Water meters.
Yeah, so, well, yeah, and I guess the reason why I'm bringing this up is that there, I think it was last year that they had opened up a grant that would allow for communities to water meter if that was something they so chose. I'm bringing it up in the idea of, I understand it is politically sensitive, and this is a great conversation to have, but I guess from my perspective, where I'm looking at things is that we have water usage that is tricky to track down if there are any leaks right now. We don't really have a process that is other than just spot checking and being able to just test right now, which isn't the most cost-effective manner. Where this pilot project offers is that it does offer the ability to meter zones of your community so that you could, we've talked about this a little bit on the community of the whole meeting, where it was that you could just determine which area is using the most water or using different levels so that you can potentially calculate your water fees and make sure that they're still relevant with what is actually being used and the strain on the infrastructure. Of course, that does not help too much with the finding any potential water leaks. It helps narrow it down, but it is enough information to just be frustrating, frankly, because we can narrow it down to a 5 or 6 block chunk instead of right now where we don't have really any kind of way to determine it other than visual. So that's kind of just why I'm bringing this forward, is that, again, I don't know what the community's sense is as far as watering. Installing water meters, of course, it's not tying, it doesn't necessarily need to tie to billing, although this program does recommend that. It's not a part of the requirement. We don't need to bill for usage to install meters. It's just, it obviously makes it a lot easier, and any subsequent decision to charge will now be very easy to implement in comparison to now. So I guess, yeah, that would be that's kind of where I wanted to take it, to see if there was any, or what council's thoughts were on metering in general, and then just to tying into our water usage and our source water protection plan and all of our water conversations, just where this is going to tie in, if anything. So that's kind of where I'll leave it. So if there's any questions or comments, I will.
Councillor Neal.
One of my questions was, you might not know this off the top of your head right now, but kind of the lifespan of the meters. When I was reading through the question and answer, lots of the communities were talking about needing to replace their meters, and there doesn't seem to be much funding for that. And so,
typically the meters do have a long shelf life. I mean, it's 10 years plus. But again, when they do need replacing, is that usually what happens with meters is that you get duds, so that they'll stop working after a year or two. And but the ones that work, they work great for a long time. But there is no funding available for any sort of replacement that way. So that would be something that we would need to budget for.
Councilor Beatty.
If I mean the chair. So first off, I'll go with just the grant itself. Are there any village requirements, any monetary values that we would have to pay for it, or is this 100%?
100% covered.
Okay, so that's fantastic. I don't think this is going to get a lot of appetite with the citizens of Salmo. But that being said, we do need to figure out our infrastructure. This would help immensely on figuring it out. But to me, it's an all or nothing. I don't think we can do district and area metering and just do main lines down the street on each end and figure out if it's there or here. It's got to be the houses and it's got to be our main lines. Because if you have a meter on the house but not the main line, yeah, okay, you notice that water's going, but you can't tell if it's there or if it's here. So it's got to be all or nothing. It can't just be just the houses or just the infrastructure. I think it needs to be both. That being said as well, I would be naive to think that we wouldn't want to charge people for water anymore. So obviously there's going to be a cost involved in this. And I think that's going to be the easiest and the hardest thing to talk about because we already paid for water. Are we just going to do a base rate of what we already paid for it over 12 months and charge accordingly after that to people who use more or use less? Or does it start from zero and what we use is what we pay? But then how do we put a value on the water? And then a third-party company like in Alberta where you pay for your water. It would be us allocating that dollar value to how many gallons you use. So how we as council do that? That's a pretty big thing to do. I can get behind it. I love the idea that it's free. That's wicked because it's a multi-million-dollar project. I think it's going to be really hard to sell for the community, but communication is going to be key. If we go into this decisively and being very transparent and very forward why we're doing it, and it's not just a cash grab, I think we'll sway some people to want to be a part of it. In the end, we got to fix our infrastructure. If you want the service, we have to fix it. So it just matters how much you want to pay. And that's going to be the hardest sell. I support it. I think it's a good idea, but there's a lot of questions.
Councilors?
No, I didn't, but I'll talk anyway.
Okay.
I love the fact that it's free, but and we do need to figure out our water, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to go overwhelming.
You have another?
Yeah, I just want to, obviously water is going to be a very important resource moving forward, how our climate and all of these things are going. And it seems like it's a very important and feasible program right now with the 100%. It seems worthwhile of a deeper discussion at the very least.
So I'm going to give some things. So first of all, I don't know how you have a discussion of the committee of the whole before January 30th. That's when the grant has to be in. Does not mean that we can't apply for the grant and still have a conversation after, because you can always give money back if you don't use it. We already pay for water and we pay a premium in this community. And we don't know what we're paying for. So they've already figured out, meaning staff from years past, what it's costing from repairs, from different stuff. And then it's a guesstimate of how much to put in for fixing what we just did. We, had staff come to us and say that there's 2 or 3 leaks down in the north part of Salmo, and we spent, I don't know, $6,500 or something to fix those 3 leaks. Now, that's just to fix the leaks. How much money was pouring into the ground, because we still pay for that water. So when we talk about the community, you don't think the community will go for that. I'm not sure if you have a conversation with a community member and say, do you enjoy paying the amount that you're paying for water? So if you have grandma at home, one person that does laundry once a week and has a shower once a week and doesn't use much and is using very little, and you have a family of 6, or another person that has a sprinkler going and has it going all the time, freezing trees, just wasting water, and we can't do anything about it because we can't. It would just get thrown out in court. How do you combat those kind of things? And meters are ways of combating them. And it does show. My question is can it be used for institutions and for commercial?
Yes.
Okay,
It's gotta be all or nothing.
that's because I didn't see the institution part. So I would want one at the police station. I would want one at the high school. I would, like anything. The medical center, because everybody pays utilities. So that's good to know. What was the time? That was my other question is, what was the timeline coming back? Was it in March? I just don't remember. Was it in March that we would hear if we got the money?
Yes.
It was March.
Yeah.
It was this one that I read.
Mhm.
Okay. Absolutely.
Just out of curiosity, like I realize for homeowners, but what happens in the instance of like a trailer park? Does every trailer still get the meter?
We have to decide that as part of our zoning bylaw, frankly, because we can meter the entire park if we want to. I wouldn't recommend it.
No, we have to meter each trailer.
Yes.
You have to, because both trailer courts that are in town, the main road, so Caddy or Glendale, the line comes off and goes down that road and goes to each trailer. So there's a shut off in the front of the 4 on Caddy and the 1 on Glendale.
Okay.
There's a shut off at that. So you have to meter, you can't meter just the trailer court as one pole.
Whereas if it was like one road in to the trailer court and had one line and you could just meter it,
You still can't.
you would still.
You still can't do it.
That you answered my question anyway, so.
If I may quickly on the same note, so I understand that one, the mobile part. What about, say, the villa or the estates? When they're all individual units,
You meter one.
that would be just strategic. Okay.
Yeah, because they pay one utility.
Yeah. And
No. Oh, yeah, to the village, yeah, sorry.
They pay one utility. Yeah, and that brings us to trailer parks, is that right now, and I don't know if it's something, I know it's grandfathered in, but utilities are collected individually, and property taxes, but property taxes are, well, I shouldn't say that they're not that great now. Some trailers are worth $100,000 that it's just stupid. But when it's not on the actual whole property, we as a village cannot go after that individual trailer because the community charter doesn't allow us to. So the only way that we can go after to put it on taxes is if we had it on the ownership of the park. So whoever owns it pays everybody's utilities, and then they put it on their pad rental.
Yeah.
And that's the only way that we can change that. But I don't know. We've talked about it's been talked about for years. how do you, because they used to be all on their own well systems, right?
I mean, through the chair. So hypothetically, we say yes to this program, everything gets installed, whatever. What about new builds? Who's responsible for putting in meters when you have any new construction?
It would be us. We would have to hire it out as far as the connection. So we would hire a plumber or.
Well, that's including the purchase of the new meter to go on that new one.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, what we would do is, I know for part of this grant, we would build in some inventory with it. We wouldn't just, but yeah, for if something was built a couple of years down the road, yeah, we would have to figure basically all of it out on our own. Is that this is just to basically catch up, so to speak.
And it would be on the builder.
Yeah.
They would pay for it.
Yeah, that was kind of like.
Yeah, it would be like they would still fall under our connection fee.
Yeah. But purchasing the new meter for the new.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the builder actually pays for the meter and everything. That's.
And meters are always a scary thing, but you'd be surprised that once you start metering stuff, there's communities that, because I've been looking at them for a long time, and there's communities that are like, we wish that we would have went to it 10 years ago because we have much more control over our infrastructure to know where, I'll use down Glendale, there was a leak that for years, no, there's no leak. They could hear the water running under the house, and it was a massive leak, and it had been going on for years. And we would have been able to, because they would have come in and said, well, there's got to be a leak. Look at all the water we're using, right?
Yeah.
There's only 2 of us that live here. So I think it's a good thing for the community, but can't.
What, do we have other communities nearby that are metered? Is Nelson or Casper metered? Nothing, nobody. Interesting.
Because of this expense.
That's, yeah, I know that's the part of this that is appealing.
Yeah, and for us, I mean, the grant is up to $5 million, just based on the meters that I installed in Alberta. Not me personally, I didn't install any. And our public works guy installed. He was our plumber, but including the meters and the install costs, it would be about $3,500. So I budgeted for 4,000 and for I think 700 meters, and that puts us at like something like 2.7 or 2.8 million, well under the threshold for what we would need. So, but of course, then it also includes the connecting infrastructure, like from our mains to the house. So whatever is, say, inadequate there, that is covered by this grant as well. So.
That's a good way along.
Well, it's finding the on and off valves is brilliant.
And when we talk about how long they last, our community did this back in the 70s, and it might have been 79 actually, is that the council of the day wanted to meter 6 businesses in town to see what was going on. The laundromat is one of those businesses. That meter was still working in 2010, and that was in 79. It's Imperial, and some people think that Imperial doesn't work anymore because they don't know how to switch it over to metric, but it still works. So,
if I may through the chair.
yes.
So the one question I have for the CAO says the monitoring requirements that would exist for the funding up to 6 years. It says the software installed with the water meters will fulfill this requirement. Do you want to just give me a little bit of info on how or?
Yeah, so the meters these days run largely like the gas meters. They're on radio. So basically we would have an app that would basically have a tower that would be able to read basically everything right from the office if the wattage was enough. In Champion, there's a couple low spots that we had to drive around and pick it up, and it would just automatically pick it up like a cell signal. But basically that tracks everything. So it does your data logs for the specific properties. So for us, one we had was our like cemetery was metered, our pool was metered, so we could pull data logs on the pool to say, okay, well, when they filled the pool, this is where it spiked, and we could determine if there were leaks that way, with any of that. But it's all read in real time, so any kind of data monitoring is pretty much automatic. It's just as simple as hitting a button and asking for a report. So we just got to do it for 6 years. That's the thing. But that's honestly, that's sending, depending on how many emails they want. Like if they want it reported monthly or annually, that's not any hindrance, I guess, as far as what the benefit of would provide is.
Any more questions on it? So I know that the staff recommendation is that council directs staff to schedule a committee of the whole meeting for further discussion with the public. But I think that the number one question is do we want staff to apply for the grant before the deadline? Because you're not going to have that committee of the whole before this. Yes.
To apply, do you have to let them know if you're going for like universal? You need to know that we wanted universal metering.
Yes.
And then, but as far as like fee for service or whatever, that doesn't have to be disclosed in the application?
Not at all. Basically, the only part of our application is that we have to provide them our inventory of what we have as far as our water lines and how many connections we would need and that side of it. So Public Works is building that right now. But it's really just the funding request. So how we bill it or anything else, that doesn't need to be part of the application at this point.
Councilor Chair. It doesn't hurt to apply. I can't see why we wouldn't apply, just for the off chance. Even if we don't get approved, doesn't matter. But I think I have to agree with the mayor. Having a COTW before the 30th is crazy. It's not going to happen. And I think we as council need to get our ducks in a row before we have this meeting too. Like we should have a game plan if we get this program, how it can be rolled out.
Absolutely, yeah. No, and in all fairness, like this came across my desk on December 12th.
Yeah.
So we didn't have any opportunity beforehand. Yeah, so it's just one of those things, bad timing. But
And we still wouldn't have been able to have a COPW by then.
yeah. So no, then that's I guess what we'll do is then we'll just hold off on the scheduling of the COTW kind of maybe until next meeting or the meeting after. But I guess just that I have the green light to apply.
So that council directs staff to submit the grant application for, well, I don't even know what it's called, water meter pilot program.
Really needed it better. So
When I first read the agenda, I thought it was just us having a program.
yeah, I was really hoping that they had something there. It's like I was reading, I was like, there's got to be a better name because this is not very.
And I think that going out to the public, it's about what is the best. Council is always to do what is the best for the entire community. And as we just went through that water plan that was put in front of us and saw all the stuff that is in that, it's not gonna, and we see what's happening down in California. It's not gonna be long, and it's gonna be forced on us to have meters, and the money is not gonna be sitting out there. Or it will be like, nope, you guys need to do it. I don't care how you do the phase or whatever, but you're going to do it because water is a super important thing. So I think it's a great direction, and it's going to be very controversial for many people until they actually have the program and see how it runs. Could you imagine if everybody just paid a certain fee for electricity? And they didn't know if they could be paying $400 a month and not knowing that they're actually only using $200 a month of electricity. Or maybe they're using more, or, and somebody else is subsidizing them. So, but anyways, the council directs staff to submit the grant application for the water meter pilot program.
I'll think.
Any more discussion on it? All in favor?
Okay.
Any opposed? Carried. does not mean that we will not do public, consultation once we know if we've got it. There's no sense getting everybody all riled up, because we might not have it. Okay, budget updates.
Okay, yeah, this is just kind of just touching on where we're at with it. I'm dealing with, talking with, we met with Public Works, yesterday, or this earlier last week. Just to get a list of, the projects that, both equipment and, just infrastructure that, we are trying to build into the budget. So right now we're just going through and finalizing the costing side of it, and basically Nathan and I are going through the first round of the projections, like for some of the bigger purchases, like our water reservoir, is that it's just putting that on paper and not saying that we're squirreling away any sort of dollar amount, but it's just estimating a cost and just putting it on there so that we're not, so then bringing it forward to you guys in the next meeting, it'll be more about priorities and when we start actually setting funds aside for some of these things and what is a priority and things that we're already just rolling into operations. So we're just kind of finalizing that list and kind of just shuffling it out a little bit for you guys. So Nathan and I are meeting later in the week to handle that side of it. But yeah, I guess that's why there's no real budget numbers in front of you at this point, is that we're just kind of going through this, finalizing the Public Works side of things. So,
Any questions? The council accept the CEO report for information.
I'll second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Accounts payable, the council received for information a list of accounts payable, checks, and electronic fund transfers from December 6, 2024 to January 9, 2025, totaling $187,984.93.
I'll second.
Any questions? I want to just tell everybody what EFT means is that because of the postal strike, the staff has been working through who they can pay by e-transfer or who they can pay by just online. So you probably all pay bills online. There's some bills that the staff can pay online, like the Fortis bills and stuff, and Telus bills and stuff like that. So it's not that they're not still approved. The CAO still authorizes them before they're paid. And I also, because the check you would usually sit in front of me or somebody else that's signing, right? So I still see the bill and put my John Henry beside his. Councilor.
So when we talked about garbage service before, we asked how many excess, like how many people get the extra tags. And I see there's a charge here for garbage tags for 2024 on the second page at the top, second down. So do we just pay them once a year for extra tags then? It's on the second page, second from the top.
Okay.
So
that is, where am I?
Other side.
Right.
Oh, that's why. Okay, there's a that. So yeah, that's just a one-time deal. That is
It's 325.
325 now.
But that doesn't make sense that it says
Yeah.
0.75. Because it's
Is that
325, 350. It could work out. I think it is 325. So it does.
no? We got
115.923.
Well, that
okay. All right.
The charging tax.
I'll
That
confirm.
seems like a lot of extra tags. Maybe people want to garbage.
I'll confirm that.
exactly what the count is for them. And
I was just, because that's more than I was thinking it would be. So maybe.
Are they 325? I don't know how much. Do you know how much it takes? You don't take your dad's garbage to the dump?
I help. Okay. No.
Might be 275. We just raised it to 350, so.
yeah, and we didn't just increase it. So
No, at the RDCK. We just raised it a month ago to 350. So,
okay.
I mean, it's kind of
I mean, to be clear. So sidetrack. So we just approved the garbage contract. Did we not say no more tags? I thought we
we
agreed.
discussed it. We didn't say.
I thought that we decided not to do anymore. Anyway, so sidetrack. So my question is these EFT checks. A lot of these are the same pay dates, like the first 5 or 6 of all sports, basically the same pay date, 24, 12, 18. Then there's one for a different date, and there's 3 of the same day, one for a different date, another 6 with the same date. Are these all individual?
Yes.
Yes, Fortis is incredibly frustrating when they mail their bills. They don't mail them all at once. We get them in batches exactly like this.
So State Word has a bill.
Yeah. Okay.
Everybody has individual bill.
Okay.
That's why there's so many.
If we carry on with this system, can we find a way to break it down and just make it a little more not annoying? I just find it weird.
This even when we do the checks.
Yeah. No, I guess, yeah, that's true. But it's only this.
It's exactly the same. It would be individual.
It just says the numbers beside it instead of EFT.
Yeah, okay. Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
We can, I guess, if this is something you're interested, kind of just know which accounts you need for, like for the pumps or.
You know, if it's going to be an ongoing, it's not going to be that big an issue, honestly. It just, that's.
I'm going to give you a plug of positive. We save on all those checks.
True that. Okay.
And we spend a lot of money on checks.
It's
On actually getting printed checks.
Checks are expensive.
Checks are very expensive, so. If you can put up with those
Yeah.
extra lines,
Absolutely.
anything else? Go ahead.
This line here, Salmo Volunteer Fire Department, file up 557 annual remittance. What is that for $1,800?
So that one would be, and if you have it off the top of your head, I'm gonna say that that one would be for, so we pay our chief and our deputy chief and our captains.
Right.
They get so much
Yeah,
a month. And though that's what that would have been.
annual, but this is an annual remittance.
Oh, maybe this is not that one.
Can I speak up? That might be all the gift cards they get each year. They're like stipend.
There you go. That's,
maybe that could
thank
be
you.
That could be.
Good job.
There's, it could be, thanks.
That's right. I forgot what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be that. It might not be, but it could. Yeah.
Actually, I do think that that's what that is.
Okay.
So that actually is-
About $35 or something, that person. Okay, any other questions on that? All in favor?
Well, good.
Any opposed?
The girls were telling me I had to initiate one and sign them. I'm like, no.
Okay, so we're gonna go on to the Community Wood Smoke Reduction Program. The council approved the enrollment in the Community Wood Smoke Reduction Program for 2025 for a maximum of 2 applications. So we have done this for years and years. Last year we had 0, nobody. So it's just something that we would put into our budget of $100 that we would donate to somebody wanting to. And I want to say that we've only ever had 2 people in our community take up on doing that. So, questions?
Well, I was just trying to remember if I asked this last year, what kind of paperwork is involved? Maybe that's why, maybe it's like.
No, there's not. It has to fit within the program.
I had a look at their website. It's mostly just about replacing a less efficient and moving to like pellet stove or removing the fireplace completely. So, okay.
Anybody want to move? If you want to say.
Okay.
Any questions on it?
You have to.
No question?
Nobody, no. We have to be part of this program, no one utilizes the program,
But if somebody does, it's a benefit. It's a benefit for somebody, especially wood stoves that are inefficient. To go up to an efficient wood stove nowadays, you can spend up to $6,500. So $100 to encourage somebody if they can get $100 out of us. But like you said, I think there's only ever been 2, and Mr. Dimmick was one of them.
I could have taken advantage of that several times over the time we've been ourselves.
All in favor? There. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the West Kootenai BMX Racing Club request for sponsorship for the Salmo Valley Fund. Just before I read this off, everybody, this is a flow-through grant. I've already asked about this because we've talked about liability of us holding grants and stuff like that. We still have one that's outstanding. The contract actually reads with the who are they?
Yeah.
The Valley Funds, with them, that they hold whoever's getting the money liable to the grant. They don't hold us. They just need us as to be able to give us the money so we can give it out, because that's the way that the program is set up. Okay. So does anybody have any questions on this? Okay, that counts. Okay, good.
I'll second.
All in favor? So the public knows it was the amount of $1,000 that's going to be for the purchase of loaner bikes. Correspondence for information now. Now we're on to reports. Councillor Fox is on here. Councillor Keating.
Nothing.
Councillor Renz.
Nothing really to report. Question or concern, so I end up driving by the high school a lot, and I wonder, could we widen the road there a little bit between the parking, and I don't know if the snows, if we haven't, it's very narrow right into the high school. Like even for 2 regular vehicles to pass, someone's usually like stopping or slowing right down.
So where is the snow?
It's creeping onto the road from the other side, like from the houses side. It's very, very narrow. I just wonder if we can run down there with the loader or something, push it back.
How long Glendale or the other?
The high school.
Davies.
Davies, sorry, Davies, not Davies. So
Yeah.
Davies, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, I can't pass anyone in their vehicle there. And if a bus comes, they basically take up the whole space.
Just since you drive past her, are people pulling right into the sidewalk? Okay.
Yeah, they're parked properly, and it's just, I think, I've never noticed it in previous years. It's just this year that the snow seems to be on the road more. So.
Okay, Councillor Ian?
I attended the library meeting last week. They are moving forward with their strategic planning, and then the next couple months they'll have 1 full day and 1 half day working on that, which will be interesting. And so there's one other thing I wanted to mention. Oh, and I apologize, I didn't get the library report in this time. Have that for you next month.
Okay, thank you. You guys have my report in front of you. As I said, we had a meeting with Modi, and when I say we, it was myself, Area A from Fruitvale, and Montrose had the meeting with, Modi, and then we sent in all of our concerns, and then you can see their response, which was not quite what we were looking for. So now we are working on fixing what they missed, what they left out of their response. So, I don't know if you guys have any questions on that.
Bobby, I can tell you that I drive from Vancouver all over all those passes, and that's the worst.
It has gotten a lot worse. So here's a little bit of information that I didn't even realize was not well known. Is when we think of YRB and we see YRB, we just think that they go from road to road to road to road. They have definite sections, which I think that most people, I always thought most people understood that. But I got a phone call the other day upset that YRB was cleaning out the Erie pullout because the bombing was horrible. And I said, they're not allowed to go over the bombing. They're not allowed to actually, Salmo's YRB is not allowed to go over that bridge. So who takes care of the bombing is Castlegar YRB. So if you have anybody that says, or if you hear people talking about how crappy the bombing is, it is Castlegar. It is not Salmo's. I can't say enough of what Salmo YRB is taking care of our roads. They're really, I think they're doing a really good job, have had a lot of compliments on different things, but the bombing has been terrifically poor this year. And I drove over it for 9 years, 6 out of 7 days, out of 8 days, I guess, because for 2 days I didn't. And we went over those different things. Something that they're looking at trying to get fixed again is the camera on the top. Somebody keeps stealing the mechanism out of it. And the reason is because it's an old camera and you can't get that mechanism. So when they finally get another one, an old one that's broke down, and they use that part to fix it, somebody steals that. So they're looking at trying to just replace it with the new, what all the other ones have. But there's no power there, so that's the difficulty with it. But maybe that might help with them keeping an eye on it better. Don't know, but okay.
Nothing to say about cell service?
And it says here too that the YRB comes all the way from Birchbank.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's their
That's their area.
So something that I'm also I'm asking the Ministry of Highways to do is on their website is to, it doesn't have to say YRB. It just needs to say, define the section. So you can go on Drive BC and go Highway 3 and go to the camera and look at that whole thing. So they could do the exact same thing where there's a map of BC and it's this whoever, and they could have YRB, MCON, Anderson, whoever takes care of that section. And then people have a problem, they can follow that section. So I am asking Ministry of Transportation. They don't like the idea, but
Neither does YRB.
YRB does like the idea. They
A lot of them get.
That's right.
But I see they, in the letter to Mr. Kinnear, they mention leaving from Fruitvale to the junction over the Bombay. And that is Fruitvale and Fruitvale to the junction.
It's all.
And I mean, it's dark. I don't know. Sand. We could actually send it.
Well, they sanded it on the weekend. Boy, they used a lot of them. My window got.
Because they're using rocks, not sand.
Okay, so that's the verbal report, council and mayor be received for information.
Move
A second. All in favor?
in favor.
Okay, public. Do you have any questions for us?
Okay, so,
Thanks for staying.
thank you.
Carrie? Sharon, do you have any questions for us?
Just the agenda. Not on.
Okay. Look.
The dates for 2025 are on there.
I think find it. I actually read it on there, but I
You
had a
might
hard
have read
time finding.
Yeah, you gotta.
You might have read it in our
I
packet.
can't bring it up. In the email, it won't download for me. It hasn't for months.
It's not where it should be, where they always.
I'll look into
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
Because that should be, I'll look into that.
Yeah.
Because that should be something pretty automatic. Even if it's sending it to you in a different file format, we can do that. Like instead of a PDF,
Oh.
if sending it to you in Word is easier.
oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. It used to always download. Now it won't. So I don't know why.
So I'm happy to be on here. It's under council bulletins.
Okay.
So yeah, welcome to the council bulletin board. I didn't even know council.
It took me a while to find.
There.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it is there, but yeah, it's
It's not.
it's been changed. So
No,
thank you. Well, the council bulletins.
It's not under the council meeting.
No, it's not.
Okay,
so it's, no, oh, is that's where you can't find it, it's under there.
Yeah, I was going to
Okay.
the council and
Yeah.
meetings.
Yes. Because usually under the bulletin, it's just put that we're having a meeting, and then there's a link
Yeah.
that takes you to that. Okay.
Yeah.
And the public, do you have any questions for us? You just have to unmute.
No questions.
No questions. Thank you. Have a great evening. And move for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.